Okay. Well, we're blessed with visitors this morning. This is wonderful. Um, and so it's good to have you all here. Um, it's a little early, but I will tell you, Brent won't be here this morning, but he is home and doing much better than he had been. So we still need to keep him in our thoughts and prayers, but he is at least home at this point.
You talked to Sue yesterday. What's the update on
Yes,
Sue?
Sue, who usually joins us, had I wouldn't call it back surgery, but a back procedure this week. She had had I'm not sure whether it was a slip disc or a crushed vertebra or what, but they put a balloon in there and blew the balloon up, and then they put cement in there. And then they undid the balloon, and so now that's relieved the pressure in her back, and she is feeling much better. Still convalescing, but definitely feeling better than she had been. I don't know whether there are others of us who have been under the weather or not. Dave, obviously you're here and doing well, and we're glad to see you.
If I can say, I went to have a tooth pulled, and they because it was like broken and like vertically, I guess. And and the dentist wouldn't pull it because he wanted me to have a biopsy, which of course is like a little provocative in a variety of ways. One of which is you want your broken tooth out, and the other of which is you don't want a negative outcome on the biopsy. But it's been and Alice in Wonderland experience with trying to get the medical and dental worlds to interact in such a way that I can finally get my tooth pulled. So I don't know. I feel as though this is a lesson in patience.
Definitely.
Well, it's time for us to start. I'm kind of doing double or triple duty today. I'm the Zoom host. I'm also hosting meeting here, and I'm the worship leader. And since I do everything early, we got started on the joys and concerns a little early, but it's good to catch up on what's going on with everybody. I don't have gathering music like we sometimes do because I'm going to be playing some things later. So we'll jump right in to meeting for worship. We've already basically shared joys and concerns, which is good. The only announcement that I'm aware of is that we do have monthly meeting for business coming up at 10:35, and there is a link to that Brent sent out separately. So hopefully you will all join us for that here in a little while. So let's everybody mute yourselves so we don't get feedback and things like that. Then we'll center into some open worship, and I will share out of the silence as I feel led. It's good to see all of you here today. Some of you we haven't seen for a little while. Some of you have had health issues since we saw you last. Others of you are visiting us for the first time, and it's good to have all of you here. Brent was scheduled to lead meeting today, and since he's been in the hospital, I offered to step in for him. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is trust. I guess I've been thinking about it a lot because I'm not very good at it. In one way, trust comes easily to me because I tend to trust people until they prove to me that that wasn't a good idea. And I think that's a good thing. I'm not always sure, but I think that's a good thing. But when it comes to trusting God to have control of the future, I'm a miserable failure. I want to plan things way farther into the future than is possible because at heart I'm a control freak. And not having plans for every possible eventuality scares me. But to quote Mark Twain, I've had a lot of worries in my life, but most of them have never happened. And I can probably say the same thing. In other words, most of the time I spend worrying about and planning for the future is wasted time. Because when I'm borrowing trouble from the future, I'm missing the beauty of the current moment. God has interesting ways of reminding me of this. As I've mentioned in earlier messages, one of my favorite devotional books is by Sarah Young, and it's called Jesus Calling, Enjoying Peace in His Presence. And one of the recent devotionals went like this. Strive to trust me, Jesus, in more and more areas of your life. Anything that tends to make you anxious is a growth opportunity. Instead of running away from these challenges, embrace them, eager to gain all the blessings I have hidden in the difficulties. If you believe that I am sovereign over every aspect of your life, it is possible to trust me in all situations. Trust is like a staff you can lean on as you journey uphill with me. If you are trusting me consistently, the staff will bear as much of your weight as needed. Lean on, trust, and be confident in me with all your heart and mind. As I searched for Bible verses about trust in my concordance and then looked them up in my Common English Bible, I found something interesting. Many of the verses where the King James Version uses the word trust, the Common English Bible, the New International Version, and the Revised Standard Version use the phrase take refuge. For instance, Psalm 5:11 in the King James reads, "But let all those who put their trust in thee rejoice." While the Common English Bible reads, "But let all who take refuge in you celebrate." Another way of saying this might be, "Let all who live in God celebrate." As I know from experience, living in God brings peace and confidence that the future will work out well, no matter the circumstances, because I know that God is our loving Creator and Sustainer. Taking things into my own hands only brings anxiety. Taking refuge in God allows me to put aside my worries and enjoy God's many gifts in the present, including the gift of peace of mind and heart. We all have trials and things that we're concerned about. Our ability to observe the world around us provides us with many opportunities to be worried or concerned about a wide variety of things. My prayer is that we each take refuge in God's loving care so we can let go of those worries and concerns, see the beauty in our lives, and know that in some way, in God's own good time, things will work out in accordance with God's will. Now, those of you who have been with us for a number of years know that most of what I do when I lead meeting for worship is play hymns rather than speak. So I've chosen some hymns that have to do with trusting God, and I'm going to play those for you now, and then we'll continue in open worship, and you can speak out of the worship as you feel led.
The idea or the concept of trust is a very interesting one. That you believe in someone or something so much that you essentially have no worries about it. Those of us involved in the banking business understand that trust is the foundation of our whole business. You trust us to give you your money, you trust us to keep it, and you trust us to give it back to you when you want it. So the entire thing is built on trust. Another interesting concept of trust is exchanging marriage vows. You're essentially saying, this is what I'm going to do, and I'll do it now and forever. A very interesting concept of trust that is the foundation of a good or not good marriage. Another idea of trust is giving the car keys to your teenage son for the first time. Talk about a leap of faith and trust. That was definitely it. But at some point, trust needs to be given. Former President Ronald Reagan's, one of his famous quotes was, "Trust but verify." And I've always been interested in that. From a practical standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. But I think Jesus is encouraging us to go a step further and say, trust, but trust. If you're going to trust, you need to go all the way and do it completely and totally. So as we think about trust this morning, it's an interesting idea. As Lynn has suggested, your mind, your life is a lot easier if you can trust. If you're trusting but with doubts, it makes my life not quite so good. If you're constantly worried about things, and I think all of us would say, yeah, I trust in God, I trust in Jesus, but it has to be entirely, completely, without doubt. And that's the hard part for me, to give total trust to someone else. But if you can, it certainly makes life a lot better, a lot more pleasant, a lot more full. Thank you, Lynn, for that sermon.
when I think about what it is that I'm hoping for, what I place my trust in God for, um, so often I find that what I hope is that nothing really radical is going to change and that I get to live my life of ease and comfort, despite the suffering of others, which of course I'd like to ameliorate in whatever way I can do without disturbing my life too much. And and I know that's not what God calls of me to do. In another spiritual tradition of mine, um, I'm told to pray for knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. And that's all. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And so, um, you know, theoretically, in the best of all possible worlds, I could be ending up with a burning bush in front of me and not probably take it very well. Um, but when you look through the Bible and what people have to go through in order to follow the will of God, it's not an easy path. And so when we trust in God, we're not trusting to smooth things at all times. I just suddenly am taken to the Messiah, the part in the Messiah where they say, every valley shall be exalted and the rough places plain. That's a great outcome from my perspective right now. But I know that it's hard not to know that that there's a great deal of suffering in the world, and that unless I do my share to alleviate it, I contribute to it. And that is not what God wants from me. And I think in some ways, when God gave us free will and the ability to make choices and, set before us resources and said, go forth, do your thing, He was trusting us too. And have we lived up to that? We don't all. I mean, I myself am pretty confident that I don't have the spiritual resources of Jesus Christ, but I know that they are within my reach. If I had the strength of mind to take advantage of it.
We've reached that point in our worship service where some of us will continue on in open worship and others of us need to depart for other responsibilities. If you're one of those who needs to leave, we wish you Godspeed and hope to see you again next week. Otherwise, join us in more open worship.
Thank you, Lynn. I can't stay, but I'll be back for the meeting.
Wow, I haven't thought about trust like this. What I'd like to speak about is trust is linked to happiness in some fashion. We have to come to an understanding within ourselves or with the person we want to give trust. And to do that, you got to trust God that He's sending the right message, that we're receiving that message. Right now, I've been struggling for a long time, years, for healing. A great pain in my family that occurred to me. And trust is right out there. I lost it. And I've been out trying to find it. I do ceramics in my retirement. And I have to trust myself to put that piece of clay down in the right place. And it gets to the point where trust is in the background of our lives too. We trust doctors, we trust dentists, we trust so much, but we don't put that much effort into it as we do in other things. And I say that because I just was diagnosed with cancer. I am fine, I'm cancer free, but the trust, for me, it wasn't that hard. I trusted them and they got me through. But I was watching Lynn play the piano and I tried to think about that trust in her mind and her fingers and her hearing. That's in the background. It shouldn't be just dismissed. It's absolutely stunning to watch. And I thank you, Lynn, for that. You have a gift that I do not have, but I know God trusts you with it. It's quite obvious.
we've come to that time when we usually bring our extended worship to a close. I'd like for us to spend a few minutes, though, getting acquainted a little bit. We have two guests, three with us, if Larry is still where he can hear us. And I'd rather than just closing and going away, I'd like to do a little bit of getting acquainted. Since I'm asking that, I suppose I should go first. I'm obviously Lynn, and I live in Indianapolis. West Newton meeting is when it had a location, a physical location, was in the southwest corner of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Steve and I live less than a mile from the meeting house that we used to own. So let's see, next to me on the screen is Susan. Would you like to just tell us your name and where you are and how you found us, maybe? If you're still there?
I'm
There you
still
are.
here. I am Susan Jackson. I usually am called Susan Ray Jackson because I was Susan Ray for so long that people look at it as one word, I think. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I have been seeking a place to find common worship, I guess I would say. And I keep, because I have known Lynn for a long time, and we on Facebook, we definitely share some values. And so I thought I would give this a try. I was a retired long-term educator, and I greatly appreciate what everyone has said today. That whole idea of trust, my mind's bouncing all over thinking about that, and asking myself, am I trustworthy as well? Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to have you.
Welcome.
Megan, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Megan Christopher. I live in Massachusetts, about 20 miles west of Boston. And I am a member of Wellesley Friends Meeting, which is a Quaker meeting about 4 miles from here. And I went on, I don't know, 5 or 6 trips to Cuba in the like from the early aughts to the early teens. I during that time I traveled with FUM on FUM trips as well as on trips from Wellesley Friends Meeting, and got to know Sylvia and Dale and a bunch of other really great people who are not here right now. And so when the pandemic hit, it seemed to me like it would be lovely to have a chance to reach out beyond my comfortable little circle into a larger sense. And of course, Wellesley Friends, I don't know if you want to get into it, but just to say that it was important for someone from Wellesley Friends Meeting, from my perspective, to participate fully in a meeting that's associated with Friends United meeting, as well as one that's more closely aligned with FWGC or whatever, however those initials are.
Jonathan, you're next on the screen, on my screen.
I'm Jonathan Hubbard. I live in London, Kentucky, which is in southeastern Kentucky. And I found my way to the meeting through the writing of Brent Bill, who's not here with us today. One of his books, Holy Silence. I had the audio book of it and would listen to it as I drove for work, and just kind of Googled him one day and found my way to the meeting. And I guess I'm not sure how long ago that was, at least a couple years probably now, and then became involved through the Zoom meetings,
Your computer.
and ended up pursuing membership with the meeting after a certain window of time, and have found it a great community to be a part of, especially since geographically it wouldn't be feasible to meet in person if we were still doing that.
Steve?
Yes, my name's Steve Winfield, originally from Wisconsin, but now live in Connecticut, just north of New Haven. My central meeting is New Haven monthly meeting, but I have had some difficult times there. I'm more Christ-centric than what is happening in there. And it was difficult for me. So I'm not quite sure how I found you guys.
Well, we're glad you did, however that happened.
I have to trust it.
There you go. There you go.
But I found some really beautiful souls here, and I continue to come. I think I've been here maybe 3-4 months.
And we're glad you found us.
Thank you. And I am retired. I worked in advertising my whole career, which is kind of odd that I have a deep faith like this. Right?
Longer than 3 or 4 months, I think, Steve.
Seems like it. Yeah, you fit right in. Seems like you've been here a long time.
Such a great career. I mean, I didn't make a ton of money, but it was the people I met were just. I'm also an artist, so I have an artist heart. So speaking to creative people is very easy for me. Matter of fact, I'm married to one, and it is a blessing to be with people like this. It's to watch you play the music, to hear people speak is so heartwarming to me. And trust is also involved in just so much in our lives. I just amazed when I started thinking about where it was and where it isn't. It is. We don't even think about it. Well, thank you.
Larry and Twinette, you want to introduce yourselves?
Hey,
Are you on?
I've got the mute button on.
Oh, okay.
I'll let Larry go first.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay, they can hear me. They're smiling. Well, I'm Larry McDonald, my wife Twinette, and we're in Pensacola, Florida, which is about 200 miles to the penny north of or due west of Tallahassee. And we're about 60 miles east of Mobile. We're actually as close to New Orleans as we are to our own state capital. So that'll give you an orientation of where we are. This is our first time at this particular meeting. We've only been to 2 others, once in Little Rock and then more regularly in Fairhope, Alabama, which is kind of a famous little meeting there because many of the people had located to Montverde at one time in Costa Rica. We're both actually retired school teachers in various avenues of how we got there. I got there through emergency management at one time in flood mitigation more than anything else, and safety hazards. Then I taught for 14 years science classes at high school, including earth and atmospheric chemistry and physics. And she's a music teacher, and she does more than just play organ. She also can burn a piano up too. So I'm sure you all have
I loved your
something in
music,
common
Lynn.
there.
Oh, well, thank you. When you told me beforehand that you were an organist, I thought, oh, gosh. But it worked out.
Yeah.
Trust.
And we're bird watchers, so if you see my eyes going above the screen, it's because something flew by.
And I just want to say how much I enjoyed connecting with all of you guys. We haven't been worshiping anywhere basically for several years. And,
If I go into a church, there are definitely hard hats.
This is me.
yeah, so there's just been such an upheaval going on, and we found it difficult to continue commuting to Fairhope, Alabama, because it was about 50 miles away. And so, and we got to know Brent, and at that time he was still working with FUM and trying to, I don't know, grow the Quaker faith, and we tried a small group that would meet at our house. We did that for a number of months, and we just didn't feel that we had enough history with Quakers. We love worshiping, with friends, and we love the freedom that it brings to just be who you are and not be prejudged on how you worship. And I just love the simplicity of it. It's just always attracted me.
We keep coming back to it.
Yes, we do. And I have a number of years, probably 15 years, organist, choir master with the Episcopal Church. And as you know, they're very high churchy with everything. They're good, wonderful people, but I just love the simplicity of it. And I love connecting with you guys.
Well, speaking of that, if you all and Susan, I'm going to give you my email address, and if you would send your email addresses to me, then the meeting, I'll make sure that we can keep in touch. That way, my email is really easy. It's just Lynn P. Mills at Gmail. And so if you would send your contact information to me, I'll make sure that it gets in with all the email addresses and things like that. We need to, Megan, you're going to say something. You're muted.
It's very simple, except there's no E in Lynn, right?
That's true. That's true. Just plain old Lynn.
There's a newsletter that goes out monthly. We want to make sure that you get that newsletter. It kind of keeps you informed on what's going on locally.
Yes, Steve, you had that's what I was going to suggest at first, was you put it in chat, and then I can try to retrieve it from there. So we do have our monthly meeting for business coming up here in a minute. There's a different link for that, but you are all welcome to join us. So what I need to do is log off of here and get, I'm also the recording clerk, so get my Word pulled up and all that kind of stuff, and then we will proceed with business. So I believe all of you have the link to that, and I hope that you will join us if you'd like to. Then, and hopefully, for sure, you'll see us next week. You'll join us next week. We would love to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We enjoyed it. God bless.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.